Hello, good day, and welcome to the Thoughts and Players Gaming Podcast, PvP edition, overrated, underrated edition. I am your host, Cory, with my two co-hosts who will be competing in this game show of PvP, where we take 5 topics and they debate them. First up, I have David.
What up?
What's up with you? And I have, sounding much better than just a couple minutes ago, Jeremy Brown.
Excelsior.
All right. I love it. If you've been listening to this podcast, you know what this is about. I just kind of explained what it's about. Gentlemen, let's jump right into this. Are you guys ready for PvP Overrated Underrated Edition?
As I'll ever be.
I think so. I think yes.
And just,
the name's complex enough.
And just one point. Overrated, underrated. I am giving you guys each a properly rated. Now, in a debate show, will I consider that a good answer? I don't know. You'd have to argue it, but you do get one properly rated when it comes to these 4 questions. The 5th question being a mystery to you guys. So, you guys said you were ready. Let's jump right in. First up, Xbox has revealed a wrap for the console, Starfield Edition, where you can, put it around the console and customize it a little bit. Obviously, we've already seen PlayStation do that with like the plastic fins on the side. The Spider-Man ones were just unveiled and kind of sold out immediately. Guys, I want to know, customizing the look of your console, overrated or underrated?
Do you want me to go first, Jeremy, or do you want to go first?
You go first.
All right, cool. All right, so I think it's underrated, okay? Because usually consoles don't really have a whole customization thing. But you look at the whole PC, not everyone, but a lot of people spend the extra money to get the really cool towers, to get the really cool water cooling and stuff like that, just to make it look amazing, have all the RGB coloring. Now, I know the system isn't going to have all that cool stuff, but to have it look like something that you really like, it could also go better with the room instead of being a big black box, for instance. So it's quite weird that they waited this long to even launch them in the first place. Because it also kind of, I guess, depends on the pricing of everything. If it's an absurd amount, I wouldn't do it myself. But if it was a skin for my Xbox was like $20 and it had something cool on it, like Avatar or Dragon Ball Z or a game I really like, heck yeah.
Okay, I'll give you 2 points for that. Little underrated.
Yeah, I think that customizing your system, is underrated. Not only because of all the things that David mentioned, like the idea that with PC gaming, so much of it is customization, making it look the way you want it to look, getting the RGBs, even like, I know like for myself, I have like custom PCI cables in there. Like I have green ones just because I wanted to do something different, right? But even think about like console gaming. Like it wasn't that far ago. I mean, we all remember what are those different color variations that we had in the see-through Xboxes. And like I think Xbox had like something like 20 different limited editions, and people used to put skins on their PlayStation 2s, and the GameCube had a whole variation of colors. I feel like the gaming industry understood customization was really important to gamers 10, 15, 20 years ago. And now it's less of a priority because there's not really much of a markup they can get from it. So, there's always been a demand. If you go on Amazon or anything like that, there's always been third-party skins that have been available to apply to your systems and different things like that. So I think most of the time it's pretty underappreciated or underrated, especially when you look at like, people who cover the news of like, hey, this is a cool customization thing you can do, adding fins, adding a custom wrap, or adding a wrap for your favorite movie or something else to a game. So I think overall it's pretty underrated.
Okay, I'm going to give you 1 point. You kind of echoed David a little bit there, but still good arguments. Do you guys like the new Starfield one? Is that cool to you? Is that something? I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen myself. No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't seen it, but again, I've talked about getting the controller, which I still haven't got, but so I'm pretty sure that I would dig it if I saw it.
Okay, it's got the same exact aesthetic pretty much. So
Yep.
Sorry for the low points. I actually think they're very much overrated.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't look at my console. I'm looking at the games I'm playing. So it doesn't really do much for me. And a lot of times they're gaudy. They're really gaudy. And if you have them in the living room, just not for me. All right, guys.
Okay.
Moving on, we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game coming out just a few days ago, I believe, August 18th. Was kind of interested in it. It's on Game Pass, so I might play it eventually, but I was looking at reviews. GameSpot, 9 out of 10. To me, that shouts must play, almost kind of like pinnacle of this type of genre of gaming. Awesome. Cool. Look at the IGN review, 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 tells me, unless you're a huge fan of this IP or genre, it's probably not something you're going to be very interested in. Obviously, people have different opinions. You can read different reviews as much as you want, but I just want to know, guys, professional gaming reviews, overrated, underrated?
Oh, I mean, I feel like they've been overrated for years. In a lot of ways, they're completely useless, right? They don't really capture a lot of the consensus ideas of what's going on in gaming. In regards to, like, I mean, they tell you a story to some extent. They do give you some information about the game, but it also really depends. I mean, you would hope in professional reviews that there would be some more opportunities of objectivity inserted in there, but they're just as subjective as any run-of-the-mill person or YouTube reviewer or anything like that. There's nothing that really separates it. I think one of the crazy things about professional reviews is that so many game developers or game companies stipulate and tie bonuses to like Metacritic performance of game reviews. Like that's crazy to me. Like it should, if anything, it should be tied to something completely different, not just those. They can be led astray, right? Game reviews, obviously. No Man's Sky, good instance for me. Great critic reviews, but when it came to user reviews, they were much more honest and gave a performance. Obviously, professional reviewers have a conflict of interest, right, to some extent that they have to keep in mind, and that just makes them a bit less useful. So I would say overrated for sure.
Jeremy, I'm gonna give you 3 points. A couple really good things you just mentioned were the bonuses connected to the Metascore or the Metacritic of the reviews, and I'm losing my mind here. But the thing you literally just said, what did you just say? The
conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest. Yes, these people get flown out. They get hotels. They get early previews. Of course, good points, David.
All right. I'm gonna do what Jeremy just did on the last question. I'm gonna kind of go right after him. I also think they were very overrated.
Good luck,
because
you made a lot of good points.
I know, but anyways, they use a lot of just like keywords. Oh, this game is very bold, and it's like, oh, it has a amazing storyline. Just like, I'm not good with words, so just be boldly words that people look for to see if the game is good or not. And as Jeremy said, they have strings, unlike us, where there's no strings attached. Wink, wink. It seems, like
I'll maybe
YouTube
a point for
viewers
that.
and stuff like that. Like the user reviews, I feel, are very more important because one, you're gonna have a better judgment usually on games because they're gonna have 100, 200, 300 times more reviews and like a star rating than it is from a GameSpot or IGN. There's only so many professional game critics as there is customers who buy the games and play the games. You have 8,000 reviews on a game on Steam and it has 4.5 stars, and you have the professional critic reviews on the same game, obviously not on Steam, but and they gave it 2.5, 3 stars. I'm gonna go with the customer reviews on that. The critiquing of them is just, it's way overrated. I don't even know why we still have these things. It's just because they have a higher reach of people than a lot of people do on YouTube, as Jeremy mentioned.
I'm gonna give you another point. I did give you a point earlier, so that's 2 for this argument. Both of you guys think it's overrated. That's fair. This show is not about me. It's about both your opinions, but I disagree with both of you on these these two questions so far. I think they're at most properly rated. I mean, they are professional in ways that they go to school to write. I think it's valuable. I've decided a lot of games based on the words that a reviewer speaks. And if you find a reviewer who you really like or trust or a site, that's invaluable. Saves you a lot of money or makes you spend a lot of money in my case.
Yeah, I mean, remember how there was the review of Cuphead, and the review was done by someone who just fundamentally doesn't know how to play a game like that. And that's the impression that people get when they're looking and researching these games. That happens a lot more than I think people that aren't in that position, because the stakes for them are a little bit different.
Jeremy with that extra credit point right there. I like that little
That was nice.
Cuphead review shout out. Jeremy, you kind of already made your point clear with Cuphead. David, do you think reviewers, Jeremy, you can answer as well. Do you think reviewers should be good at video games to be a reviewer? Is that like necessary?
I don't think they need to be good, but they need to have a sense of direction of the game itself, because I'm not that great at the games I play, but I can tell you, hey, this game is good. It has this and this and this. This is how you deal with these things. And this game's like, oh, this game wasn't great. It has these classes and like skills or whatever. It's just a waste of time. Like, as long as you understand gaming, you can do it properly.
I'll give you a point for that. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I think they need to have some level of competence in gaming. Now, obviously, I don't think that you should do something where you designate one person to one specific genre, but maybe there's a few genres where they demonstrate more competency, or they have more of an inclination to find and know things and know nuances. Like my ability to maybe notice the nuance of something in a RTS is going to be different than maybe, Cory, your ability to understand a nuance in something like a platformer or a puzzle platformer or a roguelite or something like that. So I think you need to kind of do it that way, but they should demonstrate some kind of competency. Like you're assessing something. You have to have some kind of know-how of it.
I'll give you another point. You guys are speaking the truth today. And going back to your point, Jeremy, I think some of the bigger companies do stuff like that. Like I know IGN probably has like a fighting game guy that plays all the fighting games, sports guy, a Souls-like expert. So yeah, I don't agree with you guys totally, but you guys did bring up great points. So moving on. Now, the big hotness right now in all of gaming is the Baldur's Gate 3 finally coming out to rave reviews. Just as deep as you can get for an RPG. I want to know, guys, is this the golden age of the RPG? We've seen a lot of really good releases in the last couple of years. Is this it? Is this the pinnacle of RPGs?
I don't think so. I think that is an overrated statement, because we can.
Yes, I forgot I was doing the overrated underrated thing. That was a statement, not a question. Overrated.
Gotcha.
Way to go.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to kill your steam here.
Is the order in quarter or what?
Yeah.
So we've had a plethora of Final Fantasies, and then we have WoW on its own, and we have the other Boulder Gates, and we have. Did I mention Diablos? We have Diablos. Like, we've had pretty good years throughout the 30, 40 years of gaming, and I don't know when RPGs first came out, but we've had these releases before. They were like, oh my god, this is like the best game ever. And, in another 10 years, it happens again. So I don't know if we're in the golden age. It might have already happened, or it hasn't happened yet. I think something happened with Cory.
I think that we lost Cory because he's frozen still.
We're having technical difficulties. Please stand by. Thoughts and Players, the sexiest gaming podcast ever. We'll be right back.
He's back?
Don't know what happened with that. I heard your whole argument, David.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
you did. Okay.
Yeah, I heard you guys freak out a little bit. So I'll just start by complimenting your argument.
There you go.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. David, good
Yeah.
argument. I'm gonna give you a point for that. But
Thank
I
you.
would, if not now, when was the golden age? Can you give me a time frame?
Honestly, despite me not liking it at all, I think is MMORPG gonna count, or is that its own separate entity?
It's an RPG.
Okay, because I think WoW, when that came out, it really changed things.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a point for that because it did, but it's also like the last game I would have thought of as an RPG, and you brought it out there, so I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Jeremy.
Okay. Just real quick question, just for
Yes.
myself. When you're saying that, are we in a golden age? Is there a time frame of which you are designating this age to be?
We will say this generation and a few years back on the last one.
Okay. So I would say, are we in a golden age?
The statement is we are in the golden age.
Yeah. I would say that is a overrated statement. The reason for that is that recently we've just had 2, possibly 3 RPGs really pop in the zeitgeist, right? Baldur's Gate 3, obviously, Diablo 4. I don't know how someone would want to define something like an Elden Ring as far as that being maybe an RPG or more of an action. There's so much of a different meld of things. But I think that what's happening is that there's just a lot of popularity happening with those genres right now, but the frequency of which high quality iterations or versions of that is produced is not doesn't match with something like the 90s, right, where we had like Final Fantasy 4, 5, 6, 7, possibly, like when you had the original Baldur's Gate, when you had so many other Western RPGs and Japanese or Eastern RPGs kind of taking over the zeitgeist and the culture at the exact same time. I would say that was more of the golden age. I would say right now what we're in is a resurgence or a renaissance of the genre. And I think if there's another 3, 4, if Starfield pops, right? If next year and the year after that, there's a few other RPGs that pops, I think maybe you can make that argument that could be a properly rated statement. But I think right now it's overrated.
Renaissance is a good word for it. 2 points.
Thank you.
I do want to bring up, you
Yeah.
mentioned the JRPGs, which is great. I have a lot of friends that played a lot like Dot Hack and Disgaea and stuff like that. I haven't talked to those friends as much as before, but they haven't mentioned of newer JRPGs that they've been playing, and I think that would also be a part of it if we were in the golden age as well.
He's fishing for one. I'm generous today. Another point. Jeremy, did you say when you thought the golden age was?
Yeah, the 90s.
The 90s. Yep, you did. Okay.
Yep,
yeah, perfect. Yeah, you know what? I tend to agree with you. I think you would not consider RPG the most popular of genres right now. Like that would be first-person shooter or battle royale or something like that. But there's probably an argument to be made that like on the Super Nintendo, they were the most popular genre, or the PlayStation or even PS2 had so many great RPGs. So that might have been the most popular genre. Right now, I can think it's probably not. So speaking of Baldur's Gate 3, I sent a list of games to you guys. Would one of you be so kind to read that list of games?
David's got it.
We have Final Fantasy 16, Diablo 4, RE4 Remake, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Dead Space, Armored Core 6, Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, Legends of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate 3. That's it.
Yeah, and I listed a couple more: Pikmin 4, Fire Emblem, Starfield. On my own list right here. On my own list. Okay. Starfield. Not even mentioning indies, something like Dredge or Dave the Diver or Pizza Tower. And I'm sure plenty more that I've forgotten. All these games have been reviewed highly. Fans love them. 2023 will be the best year of gaming for this console generation when it's all said and done. Talking about the PS5, Xbox Series X console generation. Overrated, underrated statement.
Did David start the last one? So I'm starting this one.
I don't remember.
Yes, he
Is
did.
this the-
So I got to start this one. Yeah, this is a bad one to start. All right. I am going to. This is. Okay. I am going to say that this is a properly rated statement. This is what I'm going to use it on.
I hate you.
And
I can't.
and here's why. Okay. What I think is that usually the best year for a console generation is usually like the last like year or two of its life, when a lot of developers have like completely mastered the technical aspect of the game console and its architecture. But I don't think, Cory, that's where you're going. I think you're going more so the quantity and quality of games, and that's where I think that's why I think that's a properly rated statement for this year. I don't recall a year that had not only so many big releases that were expected, but so many other releases that people weren't really paying that much attention to that were rated so well and did so well and were so high quality, right? Like, just for instance, we're talking about like Zelda and Starfield and Baldur's Gate 3, which I think no one cared about Baldur's Gate 3 really until it came out. It's a CRPG. It's so niche. But like, didn't we have Street Fighter 6 come out this year?
Yeah, that was
no one's talking about it. That usually dominates a whole news cycle. That dominates usually 2 to 3 months of news. I think it just so happens that all these releases are happening at the same time, and so many console exclusives are coming out, right? Like Spider-Man and Starfield, like all these, and then Nintendo with Zelda. And every time a Zelda goes, it's a bop. You know what I'm saying? I think the quantity, how many of these games we have, and how many of these games are just so freaking good, I think that's why it's going to inadvertently end up being the best year of this generation. What are the plans for Xbox games in the future? We know, we have some clue. Are any of them going to be as big as Starfield? The only ones that are probably going to rival are going to be what? The next Gears and the next Halo. What are we expecting there? It's the same with PlayStation. PlayStation did God of War. Was that last? That was last year. That was last
right? year. Yes.
Last year. Spider-Man this year. What have they got? Infamous? I don't know. They've got another big IP coming, right? But I'm just saying everything's working that way. Nintendo might surprise us with a Mario game, but is one Mario game going to be what it needs to rival this?
Mario is coming out this year. I didn't even list that either. There is a Mario coming out, Super Mario Wonder. So
yeah. So I mean, like, you know, like a mainline Mario. Like if there's just one that happens next year or something like that, a Metroid or something, right? Right. Yeah, it's just, I think this year it just ends up being that there's so many games and so many of them are so good that this is going to be end up being the best year of this console gen, which is already 3 years into its life cycle. Let's not forget that.
3 points.
All right. Unfortunately, this is what I said on the Be My Properly Rated comment. Because, as you were saying, all these amazing games, and it's all these developers, right? And we've seen status quo is games are usually taking 6-7 years to be made now. So unless these guys have smaller side projects with a smaller crew or something, what are we going to see from them on this generation? You know? And as Jeremy stated, we're already 3 years in. When is the new system coming out? In 6-7 years, when the new games are ready to come out, it's going to be on the new system and probably this system, but that's going to be counting as that generation, not this generation. So with the time it takes to make games and how far we're in to this generation, I think if this year isn't the best year, it's the second best year.
I'm going to give you 3 points as well. That's a great that's a great argument, saying all these great developers are making games. Well, they won't be able to make another one for a while. So great point. 3 points for that.
And that's with Redfall coming out this year, by the way.
We don't talk Red. We don't talk about Redfield here. We don't talk about Redfield here. We don't talk about Redfield here. Gentlemen, we're moving right along. You guys have agreed on everything, so it's hard for me to be like, well, what's your counterpoint? your counterpoint is that you agree. So
this is a very weird level. I'll tell you that.
This is. And I just realized that what would have been the underrated for that question? It really doesn't work. So this whole gimmick
underrated. Feel like, oh come on, we still have 5 more years. You can't just tell the future now and say this is the best year.
Well, that would have been overrated. That would have been an overrated statement. The underrated part of the statement would have been what? It's the best year ever. I don't know. The gimmick's not been that great. I apologize, but
it's working.
One more shot. And usually we do like a really, really fun question, something that pits you guys against each other. I didn't really do that this time. And there's no like trickery that's going to go on after I name this question. But I do think I'm asking the 2 best people this question. Like, I trust your opinion on this question more than I trust myself or anyone else. Now,
is it still an overrated, underrated thing?
This one definitely is. This one actually fits very well.
Okay.
Overrated, underrated. You guys don't have properly rated anymore.
Right.
So you need to pick one. Mouse and keyboard. Both of you huge PC gamers. I think your scores are tied. So I want to hear your best argument for overrated, underrated on the mouse and keyboard. I don't really play it. So let's hear it. Convince me.
All right. Well, once again, I'm going to
go first. No pandering.
Right. But I'm going to go first this time. It might bite me in the butt again, but let's go. Mouse and keyboard, easily overrated. For one, what? I got to remember WASD for everything. I got to remember WASD, and then depending on the game, the keys might be binded to different keys, or the actions might be binded to different keys. So then I've got to rebind the keys for the game, right? With controllers, you don't really need to think about that because everything's intuitive. You already understand if you're playing a Souls type game, the attack is going to be on the button, the bumper and the trigger buttons, right? If you're playing, an action adventure or something like that, it's probably going to be one of the, your X, A, B, Y, or your, circle, X, triangle, square is going to be one of those, right? It's much easier to play over a very like a session, like hours. If I'm playing a game for hours, what's going to be more comfortable? A controller that I can kind of move around with and have mobility with, or a keyboard where I've got to be hands on a table. It may or may not have a wrist rest for my wrist. So then I've got freaking carpal tunnel, right? I got to click. I got to make sure things are right. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of times they talk about it's the precision. There's the quickness. Does it help me make it a little bit quicker? Yeah. Does that exponentially improve your gaming experience? No, because the thing that's really improving your experience when you're playing with keyboard and mouse is usually the input of your monitor, the output of your graphics card, and the input of the I/O interface, right? So the reason that you can move a little bit faster isn't because mouse and keyboard is faster. It's because your USB 3.1 or 3.2 input just moves faster than my wireless input on my Xbox or my Bluetooth input on my PlayStation. That's all it is. Besides that, it's completely overrated. Mouse and keyboard. Should call it schmouse and schmeeboard.
Come on. I shouldn't minus a point for that, but I like that kind of humor. So here's the deal, Jeremy. You guys are actually tied, so I'm not going to award you any points. Mm-hmm. I'm going to determine just a winner based on David's argument. If he argues better than you, I will, choose him. I'm not going to give any extra points. And what you can do is once I announce the winner, you can put whatever epic sound effect of victory that you want to,
Okay.
Kilimanjaro, whatever you want to. David, mouse and keyboard, no properly rated lefts. I'm glad you guys used them. Overrated, underrated.
All right. So I think it is kind of actually underrated. Now, the talking point he brought up about the buttons being different on here and then it is to controller isn't entirely true. Okay, because usually C is always a crouch and shift is always a run, or and like and abilities and stuff is usually Q, and other picking up stuff is usually E. It is a usual basis in games. And they're as different as they are on controller. Yeah, it's mostly the same, but there are subtle differences throughout whatever game it is you're playing. Also, I grew up on nothing but controllers. I didn't start playing keyboard until 8 years ago, 7 years ago, and it took me about 100 hours to even memorize the muscle memory to remember how to play games at all. Now, when I go to play on a controller, I can't. I don't have the muscle memory for it anymore. So saying controller is easier isn't all that necessarily true. It's whatever you're putting the time in the most. If you play both of them, then you're going to memorize both of them. My brother plays both. I don't understand how, but he's godly on both of them. And with mouse and keyboard, your mouses, I don't know, you can see, but like my mouse has like 9 keys on the side. So that's less my left hand has to do than my right hand can do. Now, you can do that slightly on a controller, but not as significantly as a keyboard. And if you're not good with the WASD, you can do whatever you want. You can do the BNJM or whatever, whatever fits, you can just place it, And that was one thing, like with controllers, you don't like to aim with this button. You could switch to this one, but if all I have to do for a mouse is just switch the two, so I just aim with my left and shoot with my right. I don't have to switch my hand entirely or anything like that, So it's just mouse and keyboard has a way bigger customization palette than a controller does. Also with controllers, I know they have these things you can put on the joysticks. They get a better, I forget what it's called right now, but like I don't know, sensitivity. There it is. It helps with sensitivity. Like mouse and keyboard, you can really tune in to your sensitivity. I just mouse and keyboard I just think is better. Also with controllers, they have the aiming thing. Not aim bot, but
auto aim.
Auto aim, yes, thank you. And like right now on Apex, for example, a lot of people are using controllers because the auto aim is really up there.
All right, you guys have made your points. This is PvP. You guys are kind of, arguing to me, and how can I not have bias, right? That's just as simple as it is. I'm human. I have bias. I see controllers. I see keyboard and mouse. You guys both made actually really good arguments. David, I think the argument of the buttons do have, they do make sense. C as a crouch, and there's more buttons to be able to do some more stuff. Jeremy, obviously, I've been a proponent of the ease of consoles and the flexibility and being able to lay down and all that. That's awesome. You can't replace that. This is tough. All right, like I said, I'm just going to pick a winner. There's no 3 to 4 points. And the winner to me, David, I don't play keyboard and mouse, but I wish I did, because having all those buttons, having everything mean something, and there's so many games that you can't play with controller, and that annoys me. I try to buy these games for console, and I just can't do it. I'm like, man, keyboard and mouse, this would be simple. I'm playing all my simulation games, all my building games. I can't do it. I respect the heck out of keyboard and mouse. It's underrated. It's underrated. That's the crux of this question. It's a little underrated. It's not overrated. David, you are our winner tonight.
Thank
Jeremy,
you.
it was great arguments. You fought hard, man. You had great arguments.
This is for one, valiant effort by David. Number two,
valiant effort. What do you? He won. Yes,
I understand that. It was
no kidding. It's a valiant. No kidding. It's a valiant argument.
Whether it's a win or loss, is valiant. You have to be valiant in order to win or lose.
I feel like that's usually something you say to the loser, like valiant effort, man. Like, no, he won. He should be saying it to you.
You also have to have a valiant effort to win, though.
True.
It's not
wrong.
Go on.
What I was going to say, though. But the question was whether it was overrated or underrated.
Yes, and I think it is underrated. I do. I think not enough people give it its flowers. It's looked at as like.
But consensus is that keyboard and mouse is the best experience for controlling games.
By people that play it, but by people that don't, they don't like it. I don't see the other way around where PC players are like, oh man, controller. Like they'll play controller for action games and stuff, but I think a lot of console players are like, keyboard and mouse, that's for nerds. I think it's underrated. It's underrated. Okay. I'm sorry. I just David brought up a good argument. You guys were tied. It was close. David, congratulations, man.
Thanks. I feel weird when I win.
Why do you feel weird? You earned it.
I don't know.
You earned it.
I'm so used to losing.
I'm telling you, if you would have agreed with Jeremy, there's nothing you could have said or added to that would have won you this match. And that's where the biasy kind of comes into factor. In my head, I was thinking a little bit underrated. And Jeremy brought up good points. He did bring up good points. But, he went overrated. And I don't think it's overrated. So, David, champion, victor, valiant, effort guy, you have the first final thought. Take it away, man. He's looking around his room again. Oh my god!
Yeah.
I regret this.
I love
okay, my final thought is yard work. I hate doing
yard work.
It's satisfying when you get it done.
It is satisfying when you get it done.
You're like, I don't want to do that. But 5 hours later, you know what? You're like, that looks pretty good. And then you don't want to do it again.
I was going to say 5 hours. That's crazy, but I remember you have a large yard though. So
yeah, it's bad.
A fast-paced, back and forth, agreeing, trying to one-up each other's points. Epic conclusion. Yard work. That sucks.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's how you ended. That's how you know you're dealing with seasoned gamers.
Yeah, okay. Jeremy, as much as it hurts, do you want to deliver a final point as well?
Yeah, my final thought is this is the very last time I ever say something like schmouse and schmeeboard or anything stupid I think would appeal to Cory's type of humor, okay? Because what ends up happening is you end up losing and you get embarrassed twice because you said the dumb thing and you still lost. Okay? So this is the last time I'm doing that. You can never expect anything like that from me ever again.
God, that was
also, we have a Madden 24 review up on YouTube. Make sure you go check that out. That's my final thought.
That was great. Yeah, and you know what? My final thought will be Jeremy posted an inside review, which I tried to watch and realized I'm not a Patreon member, so I couldn't watch. I was like, I went to sit down. I'm like, I'm gonna put on this inside review. Jeremy does great work, just great work on YouTube.
He does,
not so much in PvP episodes, but on YouTube he's elite. Ow. He does valiant efforts there. And I went to click it. It's like become a Patreon member. It's like no, it's our Patreon. Why do I have to be a member? So, Jeremy, is there a timetable when that's coming to everybody? Is it another week or so?
Yeah, it's usually week Patreon exclusive, and then it will be released onto the main page. So that'll be coming pretty soon to our YouTube. In the interim, Madden review is there if you want to review, and the inside review will be coming sometime next week.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the inside review and the Madden one, of course. But that's all the time we have for today. If you liked what you heard, follow us. Listen to us, share us, tell a friend, maybe support the Patreon. We're at Thoughts and Players at pretty much all the services: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Like I said, Patreon. Am I missing any? YouTube. We have merch. We have What Up.
We do have,
and we have merch that shall not be named. But still cool. So if you enjoy any of our stuff, we really appreciate it so much. Just you listening is enough for us. But thank you for listening. Everyone have a super great day and good night. Gentlemen, any final words?
Goodbye.
Chicken, ducks, and hens. Goodbye.